I'm not going to miss a thing of this conversation. I got to make sure I capture it all.
Oh, how's it going, Paul?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, Chad. How are you?
I'm doing well today. A lot better than I thought it was going to go today. I had to, uh, I had to mix up some cement, some dry pack today. I was going to have an opportunity to actually put some cement on at my job on this floor, and the mixer broke, and we were going to have to mix it by hand. And I was like, oh my goodness! But it worked out. It worked out a lot better than I thought it was. So I kind of learned a little bit of a lesson. I don't know if you noticed or not, but I'm kind of a drama queen. So it helped out a lot to look at that.
I'm so sorry that you were here during my vacation. It would have been way more. It would have been much fun to meet you in person. So
Oh no, it's all good. That was a really great trip. So my grandmother passed away on January 1st, and we had scheduled to fly out there and meet with her, but she had gotten she had like almost like a near death experience, and then like a month before that, and then my grandfather was pretty concerned about COVID and stuff, so he said, "No, why don't you guys hang out? Just don't do it." And so she was pretty upset that I mean, I'm sure she understood that what my grandfather was saying, but she had MS for like 30 years. So,
oh wow.
but so the day that we were originally scheduled to go out there and meet her, which was New Year's, we are going to do New Year's with them. She ended up passing away, and it was, I don't even know. I don't know how we got on this, but yeah. So that's why we went out there. We went out there to go spread her ashes up in Hogan Ravine.
Oh, I don't know.
It's up,
There's a lot of Northern California. There's a lot of ravines up here.
right. It's like anyways, it's out there, and so we spent a week there. But before we went there, my wife was, "Oh, where's my ring?" Oh, it's not good. My wife was uh she said, "Why don't we go to Yosemite?" And I said, "That would be cool." She's like, well, let's get another week put on the trip." And so we spent 10 days out there, and we went up and we seen Calaveras big trees, which was I think the closest thing I've ever experienced to actually seeing God. Because it was just so unbelievable. Like, I've seen pictures and stuff, but
Oh,
until you're there,
you can't
you
take
can't.
pictures of them.
I mean, you can't even begin to understand how magnificent. I mean, I was struck stupid by it. I mean, I was like,
Yeah.
it was incredible. So, I mean, these things have like, some of these trees have like 3 feet thick bark. It was
Yeah.
unbelievable. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we went there. We drove out. We seen Bodie, which is a
Oh,
ghost.
Bodie's great.
Yeah, my grandfather took me there when I was a kid, and I it's always kind of stuck with me. And so we went and saw that. We went to Yosemite, which was awesome because during the lockdown or whatever, they were only letting a certain number of people in there. And so we had this app that it's called Gypsy or something like that, where it's for people who travel. And there's a dude on there who's like telling you the history of the thing as you're driving around,
Oh,
And he
cool.
says, he gets there, he says, so at this point, you could be sitting here at the opening of the valley for 3 hours before you get in there.
Yeah.
We're like, holy crap. But we didn't have any time at all. It was just right in. We got to walk around. There was no traffic, whatever.
Oh,
And it was phenomenal. So that was a trip of a lifetime. I think it was kind of like it was kind of like our second honeymoon in a way. We did our honeymoon in Maine a year ago, and that was pretty great. But this was something else, man. So yeah, that's where I was. In the first place we went, we flew into Sacramento. I was like, we got to go to see Livingstone's church. I knew you weren't going to be there, but we went first to little the old town sack,
Yeah.
and and I got that thing, and I got you a postcard from Sacramento.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that was pretty cool too, to see your church, to see the characters that you talked about around the church. I thought that it was like Paul is the real deal, and there's a lot. I think there's a lot that you talked about in your life or your work life that was really relatable for me as a recovered alcoholic, and kind of like, I guess what I'm hearing is your mission statement is to try to get out of the way and help others.
Yeah.
And that, to me, it's very akin to me. So, or kindred souls that way. So I really relate to that, and just going there was really great. I got to meet Pastor Mark was there by chance, and that was just really, it was, I think we'll remember that one forever.
Oh,
so
good. Well,
yeah.
let's get into your story.
Okay. Well, okay. So I was born.
That's good.
I was actually born in Mountain View.
Really?
Yes. I'm 38 years old. My mother had me when she was like 17.
Oh, wow.
So my mom and dad did get married. He had joined the military, and so after I was born, we moved to Fort Ord. We lived in Fort Ord. That's where my brother was born. They ended up getting divorced when I was like 3.
Mm.
And so when I was growing up, we didn't have there was nobody talking about God or anything like this. The only thing I really ever heard up till the time I was probably 12, I think, was like, if you do bad, you go to hell, and God's always watching. That's all I ever really heard about anything like that. And I was born with a cleft lip and cleft palate, and so if I don't think this is everybody's experience, but it was tough to have that, because kids they can be jerks,
Yeah.
And I'm sure I had my moments of being a jerk too, but it was very difficult. There was moments as I got older where I said things like, I would never bring a child into this world, because one time I went to one of these doctors said that 1 out of every 99 of my babies or my children could have this cleft lip, cleft palate thing. So I was like, screw that. I would never inflict that upon a person. And like, people talk about, their high school years and their child life being like the greatest years ever. And it wasn't, man. It was this, like, the life I live today is the greatest life. I can't even believe it, but I would never go back. I get to go back and use those experiences to help others, but I would never want to inflict that stuff on somebody else. So yeah, I got picked on and beat up a lot. There was after my mom and dad split, she immediately met this other guy. I think that, I don't know the whole story, of exactly how all that happened, but I do remember him being around the house. And I remember, so we called this guy Bud. This is the guy that my mom was dating. And I remember really liking him a lot. So I'm like 3-4 years old, and I just remember really liking him a lot. And then one day my father came to pick me up for the weekend or whatever. This is like around 4 years old. And so my dad knocks on the door. I remember going to the door. And this guy Bud answers the door. Now Bud's wearing underwear. He's literally only wearing like a Speedo. Like, and my dad, he like grabs me, he says, and he kneels down and he turns me around and he points up at that guy. He says, "You see that guy right there? That's a bad man." And from that moment on, I had a terrible relationship with this Bud guy. And to my dad's defense, this guy he's a bad guy. But like looking back at that, I don't think, if I was in my father's shoes, maybe I would do something different. But knowing what I know today about the kinds of things that happened, I would never do that to somebody, because it's just the consciousness Congress, like that's, and then there's that attitude that I carry around with me for life, which is, this dude in my head saying, "That's a bad guy. That's a bad guy." And so, I shut into myself. And so we live with this Bud guy and my mom, and my younger brother, who's 2 years younger than I am. We would see with my dad, I don't know, once a month, maybe. We moved all over the place. We lived in Salinas. We lived in Prunedale. We lived in another place in Salinas. And then I moved to, then some crazy stuff went down, and my mom ended up leaving that Bud guy. And when I was like 7 or something like that, and we moved to Prunedale, or not Prunedale, Manteca, and lived there for a while. And then one day, my mom asked my brother and I, she says, "Hey, do you guys want to go see Bud?" And we were like, "Yeah." So we ended up moving out here to Wisconsin to follow him out here. Now, I don't know. It's hard to tell you why all this is relevant. So while all that was going on, before all that, hang on a minute. Oh no. I had an alarm go off. So yeah. Well, anyways, time's up. See you, Paul. No. There was a lot of chaos, basically. So here's the weird thing. I do tell my story in AA. Like I get asked to do that from time to time. I don't get into these kinds of topics though, because I feel like when I'm doing this, I'm painting myself as some sort of victim, and I don't really want to do that, because none of this made me an alcoholic. Okay, so I don't get to tell this story this way, and so I'm a little nervous. But there was a lot of chaos. I'm talking like violence, and police were being called, like physical violence, and so it was not good living in this household. And sometimes my brother and I would talk about this, and we as adults, and we'd say, "I can't believe, like, how the hell did we even make it out of there? Like, why would and he has kids and I don't yet. It'd be like, why would you do that?" Like, I had some resentments against my mom for a long time, because like, why wouldn't you just get the hell out of there and stay the hell out of there?
Yeah.
And well, hindsight's 2020, like I think we're all kind of idealists in this way, like things will change, and they don't. So anyways, we follow him out here to Wisconsin. I live here for a while. They get married, and the craziness starts right back up again. And he cheats on her. They break up and get divorced. And I want to go. I moved back out to live with my dad. My dad lived in Manteca, so I moved out there and lived with him for a little while. And that when I moved out there, I was about 12 years old to Manteca. Or no, it wasn't Manteca yet. Crap, it was in San Jose. So my dad started going to church. Now he had 3 other children living in the house with his then wife, and he starts taking me to church. Now, right before this, I had just gotten drunk for the first time right before I left Wisconsin and moved to live with him, and it was like a terrible, messy experience of getting drunk, but it was great. You know, it's like I want to do that again. And
well, tell me more about that.
My first drink?
Yeah, your first getting drunk. Because most kids, when they try alcohol, it's like, ah.
Right.
How old were you?
So the first time I remember actively taking some drinks, my brother and I, mom was at work. We were latchkey kids at this point, basically. For a lot of the time when he wasn't around, we were basically latchkey kids.
Yeah.
And so she was out with her friends or whatever, and there was like this bottle, one of those big old bottles of Jose Cuervo. And so we got all these ice cream pops, like these push pops, or like the plastic ones, whatever. We put them in a blender. We put some tequila in there, whipped it up, and I took a drink of it. And it was exactly like you said. It was like, God, that's disgusting. And so I threw it out. Well, like this must have been a few weeks later or whatever. I was hanging out with one of my cousins and some friends, and we're listening to rock and roll and hanging out at this farm, and where we would build stuff and just be kids with imaginations and just unruly kids. And I remember I found some they had like a pitcher of beer, a stale pitcher of beer in the fridge left over from 4th of July. So it's like maybe a couple days old after 4th of July. And so we started drinking that, and it was gross. And I was like, dude, my mom's got this bottle of tequila. So I ran over to my house, got the tequila, and just started chugging it. And it was like, once I started to actually feel the effects of alcohol, like, because before this, I like all of the terror with the alcoholism that was going on. I was thinking, why the hell would anybody ever drink like this? Like, I can tell you some stories, like just imagine some really terrible violence. Okay. Like we had to take my mom into the hospital once because of a violent act that this bud guy did. And he was driving her drunk to the hospital, my brother and I back to the car, and she's bleeding from the head. And he's saying, holy shit, just tell them that she fell. And so we're dealing with this kind of shit. And this is the kind of stuff that was going on. And I remember not right around that same time, I remember asking my mom, like, why would Kurt Cobain kill himself? I asked her this, because this is right around that time, 94, 96, whatever. She says, I don't know. I don't remember exactly what she said, but I do remember telling her, well, I would never drink or do drugs like that. I can't believe that. I remember telling her that. And it wasn't long after that where this happened, where I drinking this tequila at this little party and feeling, all of a sudden I felt the effects of this tequila, and it was like I could breathe, and I felt I can be just one of the guys. I felt like cool. I felt accepted. It was great, and well, and then I ended up, next thing I know, I'm waking up on the front lawn with my pants down. I basically defecated on myself. The babysitter lady's hosing me down, saying the cops are coming and your mom's on her way. You need to get in the house. And so I do that. I get cleaned up. I go in the house, and that was my first time getting drunk. And so I was a blackout drinker basically right from the go.
Wow.
And
Did you watch your mom or Bud drink a lot? Was this just part of
oh yeah,
normal life for you?
yeah, that was normal. All this stuff was normal. The violence, and it was very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I mean, because like I grew up on rock and roll on vinyl records. They would have the neighbors over and other friends. They'd be cooking out. They'd be playing cards. The guess who's playing on the turntable, or the Eagles or Zeppelin or whatever, and it was a great time, and everybody would be having such a great time. And then when they would leave, when everybody would leave, shit would hit the fan, and chaos
Wow.
and violence. And then when they weren't drinking, Bud was a really good guy.
Wow.
Like he taught my brother and I good manners, like, yes, please, no, thank you, yes, sir, no, all this different kinds of stuff. So there was some good values being taught there, but all this chaos is making it just chaotic. And I got this other thing, like I said, with this cleft lip and stuff going on. So I got all sorts of crap up here going around and around and around, and feeling very distant from the world. I think this is in AA. We say that we really suffer. We don't really suffer from the drink or anything. I suffer from a spiritual malady, where there's a separation between me and others, and I never had a connection with God. So there was definitely, being accepted was like a God for me. And so alcohol really treated that, and it helped me feel like a person. And people talk a lot about I drank to escape, and I think maybe I was doing that at the end, but I was really drinking to get connected. It helped me feel like a person. It helped me so I can get, like, I would say a social drinker, but I drank beyond social drinking. So but yeah, this chaos.
So you're moving. So you got drunk right before you moved back with your father.
Yeah.
What happened then?
So I move out there, and he's concerned about me because I had really bad grades. I'm listening to Marilyn Manson. I have, my hair's kind of down to here, and and I'm 13 years old, and I'm just a kid, man, who's chaos. I wouldn't like skip school, and I wouldn't like be like I was I don't know how to explain. I was a loner basically.
Yeah.
Like I would tag along, but I just couldn't do well. I couldn't get my shit together.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't going up there and yelling at teachers or anything like that, but like my cousin, he was into that. And I really looked up to him, man. And I smoked my first cigarettes with him, and so I was really just a follower.
Were you accepted by your stepmother, by your father's new wife?
Yeah, she was very loving. She
that's good.
Yeah, she was really loving. And so my dad will probably listen to this, and that's okay. And he understands. I'm not gonna not tell you the truth, and I want people to be able to hear this stuff, because this shit's real, and like this is where growth happens. This is like why I really fell in love with your channel, was listening to you and Job talk, and there was just something so real about that, and that's why stories are our stories are real, and they're real vital for healing, and for helping people orient themselves where they are so they can see, because they might not know. And so when we tell our stories, I say, oh shit, I got that. Pardon me. I'm sorry, Paul's audience. I do say these things, these cuss words.
That's okay. This is YouTube.
But yeah, so my dad,
So
was,
you
I
were
don't,
kind of a lost kid when you got to your dad's.
yeah. And, and my little brother, my other little brother was born. He had a condition where he had to have a trachea in. We're living in a 2-bedroom apartment in San Jose.
Oh,
I have
wow.
2 sisters. One's younger and one's older. And I'm in there, and my dad's wife is the only one working. And my dad's stay-at-home dad. And there's a lot of tension. And I think my dad wants to do right and he wants to do well, but we have temper issues, and we have an inability to probably be okay in our skin, and and an inability to we want to do right, but we can't seem to really do it well. So he's doing what he can,
Yeah.
and so all the stuff I tell you about my mom and my dad and all these people, they're working with the best tools they have.
Yeah, I get that.
And it took me a long time to get to that.
Yeah.
But so he takes me to this mega church, and that he's been going to. I can't remember the name of the damn church, but it's a big ass church in San Jose. And I was really liking what I was hearing. And they do like this massive Easter production, like a whole play, the whole deal is ridiculous. And I got to be in the play, and they asked me to be the thief on the cross to the left that asks if I can enter, or if he'll remember me or whatever. I don't remember the line. But I'm 13 years old, and I'm on a cross in underwear, basically, in front of this mega church. So, how weird is that? And
That'll leave an impression.
Yeah, I mean, I liked what I was hearing, and but I don't like the hypocrisies. There's a couple of events that happened in the house that the Christians say that they're doing say one thing and act another way. Okay. And then so I ended up eventually, not soon after that, moving back to Wisconsin to live with my mom.
Wow.
And and during that time, I learned how to play guitar and stuff. That was my first real love. Was learning music. Really, this is another theme of mine in life. So I never really had the like good book knowledge, or I wasn't a good student of any sort. I don't have any patience for it. Excuse me. So what I would do is I would never learn anybody else's music. So what I would do is I put on a record or a CD or whatever. I remember I had Sublime's self-titled record that I really liked. I would put that on, and I would play whatever I can figure out over top of it. And that's how I developed a skill to writing songs. And I did the same thing with Foo Fighters records and stuff. And so I never wanted to learn anybody else's music. And I would say this almost as like it was a virtue, but really it's just because I was too lazy to learn somebody else's music. And so I don't have an ounce of humility at all.
But you're very creative. I mean, you can't watch your channel and not see your creativity.
Yeah, it's been the one thing that's probably saved my life, and it's really brought about most of the meaning in my life was having these creative outlets. And so what I learned about music was it was a language that I could use to get in contact, to be accepted. I remember like once I could actually write some good songs, people who might pick on me or something in school, they'd say things like, I didn't really like you, but man, I love you, man. I love that song. And so like these things, I was able to use these tools as a communication, and which is great. But the problem is I don't know how to handle compliments. I don't know how to handle like when somebody says something like that, then my ego goes from, here to way to here. So I got this ego that's all over the place. And so, it has really helped me. And the principles of that have really helped me to remember that really, really the glory is God's. And like that, I learned doing what I'm doing now. But it's not about me, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, so I learned music, and I move out back to Wisconsin, and I guess I could just kind of fast forward. I moved to this little town with my mom and my brother. The school I went to was K through 12th grade. There's 400 kids in the whole school. So I'm in a small class of 30 kids per class. And I'm able to start. So my mom really likes going to the tavern. So in the state of Wisconsin, you can bring your kid to the tavern and your kid can drink with you, as long as they're not 18 and above. So I don't know if this is the way that the law is still today, but this is the way that it was when I was 15, 16, 17.
Huh.
So you can bring your kid to the bar and they can have a beer with you, as long as they were accompanied with an adult. And I love that, man, because I was like, when I was living with my dad, there's a friend that I had out there. We would play guitar and smoke weed and drink and stuff like that. So when I moved to Wisconsin and I had this opportunity, now I can like go to the bar with my mom, and that was awesome, and so I was doing that, and really, really, really fell in love with alcohol and music, and then so yeah, there's all that going on. And then we ended up eventually finding a church that she liked up there, and there was this just a small church. I don't know what kind of denomination it was, but then we ended up moving in and renting the parsonage there, and I think I like what I heard, but I'm just I'm more interested in drinking and playing rock and roll and doing that kind of stuff. So I just had a difficulty with this stuff. And now the whole time too, I don't think I ever really had any real belief in the Jesus thing. And so again, like I said, I've always been kind of a follower. So it's kind of like, yeah, sure, whatever. And so yeah, so all that happens. I guess we can fast forward a bit.
Yeah. So how'd you get out of the house? I mean, you were living with your mom, and at some point you stopped living with your mom. Did you go to school? Did you get a job? Did you get a girlfriend? Did you just move out? What was that transition like?
Mostly just kind of lived on mom's couch for a long time, and then I ended up getting an apartment, and then I ended up getting a band, and then I didn't go to school or anything like that. Eventually, I ended up moving a couple hours away. There was a woman that I was living with, and I had a band. I met some guys, and we had a band, and we started this band, and it was a lot of fun. And I ended up eventually going on tour. It was a real small tour. We had zero money. It was all self-funded. We made a record. And so this is about the last year of my drinking, though. She ended up leaving, and then I ended up getting like this third DUI, or how do I do? Let's see the timeline of the story. So she leaves. I'm without a place to live. I'm living on the floor where my band practices in this office building. And on the weekends, if I'm lucky, I can find somewhere to take a shower. I still had a job. I'm using my sister-in-law's car. They let me use their car. I'm driving all over the place, drinking and driving, and still going to work, but living on this floor of this office building. And it's just not good. And I'm losing a lot of weight. I'm not really doing a lot of drugs, but I'm really just drinking a lot. Well, there was a time there though I was smoking K2 like really crazy, and that's the only drug I ever did like alcoholically, and that's a nasty drug. So yeah, my brother, he's really concerned for me at this point, and he calls me and says, you know, that job you got up there, I don't think they're paying you well enough. I think you should come down and live by me. I can get you a better job, you know. And I'm thinking, hell no, man, my life's awesome. Like this is awesome. I got a band, like I have a job, they're paying me good enough, and like nobody's to tell me what to do. And plus I'm looking nice and thin. Like, look at me. And like this is literally how I'm thinking, you know. I don't know how to. So I went from like kind of like how I am now to skinnier, and I literally thought that I was looking good. And my friends were like, dude, your eyes look sunken, like something's wrong with you. And I'm like, whatever. So he and you know the thing about like, yeah, so anyway, so my brother, he's all concerned about me, and so he gets me this job, and I moved down to live with him. And the day before I moved down to live with him, I get my third DUI. And so they didn't keep they didn't keep me in jail. They have to let you out of jail after like 72 hours or whatever. Excuse me, or however many hours it was. But I got to come back to court like in a couple months.
Right.
So I moved down, I live with him, and he's really pissed because I just got a DUI in his wife's car. And meanwhile, I'm still driving 2 hours to go practice with the band every weekend. And he goes in the car and looks under the seat of the car. He's like, dude, you just got a DUI. Why do you have these empty cans of 211 under the seat? I'm like, oh, you know, and it was not good. So this one weekend, this is like a month after I moved down there, and he's like, I'm gonna go up north, I'm gonna go spend time with mom, I'm gonna leave you the car. Whatever you do, don't drink and drive. If you want to drink, the bar is right around the corner. Just walk and then walk home, you'll be fine. I said, cool, man. And so I go, what do? I go drink and drive. And I hadn't gone to court yet for my third. I got popped for my fourth. And since it was technically my third still, they still had to let me out after this this 24-hour period or whatever it is. Now, up to this point in my life, the only thing I ever wanted was to make a record, go on tour, and perform music at a strip club. That I wanted to perform my music at the strip club. That's what these are, because there was a band that I really liked that ended up doing that, and they got signed, and I thought that was so cool. So this is what happened. The dude at the radio station liked our music. He had like this local hour, and he's like, I want you guys to play at my bachelor party. So like
second to the strip club, you know, maybe there'll be a stripper there.
It was at the strip club.
Oh, perfect. It happened.
Yeah.
When you wish upon a star.
Right. So I get my fourth DUI the day before. I get out. I call one of the guys, one of my friends. He comes pick me up. I'm so ashamed. I know I'm about to go to jail. And I knew that I could never drink again. I'm done with this. And so we go up, I play the show, and it's like 12 o'clock at night. And I'm like, the thought crossing my mind, but what if I just have like one beer, you know? And so I order my pitcher. Next thing I know, I'm blacked out. I'm waking up out of this blackout, pounding on the bar with an empty pitcher, yelling, "Who the hell drank my beer?" And everybody's looking at me like, "Dude, you drank it. What the hell?" And then I blacked out again. And then I'm waking up the next morning in a house I've never been in. I don't know these people. And I'm just like, dude. So I leave the house. I eat breakfast at this restaurant by myself. And I'm just thinking, this is insane, dude. Like, why? What has your life gotten you, dude? Like, you went from, you haven't done shit with your life, really. You only harm people. You're a liar. You're afraid of everything. You're so self-centered. I'm just thinking all this about myself, and it's all true. And I can't even argue with it, And so that next day, I get a ride down by my brother. I go to the job that he got me, working with him. I have to tell my boss I got this DUI and I got to go to court today. He says, okay. So I go to court and they take me right to jail. So I spend 7 months in jail. And it was like the best thing that ever happened, because the whole time I was there, I only had 2 visitors. One was my brother, and he visited me once, and the other was my drummer and my other guitar player visited me once to tell me that our bass player had passed away. He had some heart condition, and I took that one really hard, man, because he was like the level-headed dude in the band. He talked about God. He was very Christian. I would make fun of him about this stuff. I'd make fun of him about what do you mean we can't say fuck in a song? Well, I'm not going to write it. He would say stuff like that, and I would just be rude to him, and I didn't treat him well on his bass playing skills, and I just took it hard, man. And now, I listen to those songs today, and he wrote a lot of the lyrics, and even though it's like, it's heavy metal and stuff, like he was saying stuff in there that just hits me now. Like he's saying stuff that was, it meant something different before, and today it means something way different.
Yeah.
And so this one time, this is like a couple of years in sobriety. I'm up in that town, and I've not been to his gravesite yet. So I go. I don't know where his gravesite is. I know where the cemetery is. It's a big cemetery. I mean, it's like really, really big. And so I just drive in there and I say, "Hey, Josh, maybe if you can help me out, that'd be cool." And so I drive, and literally seconds later, his tombstone is right there in the middle of this big ass cemetery. And I got to make amends with him there. And so, yeah, that was an experience. Anyways, so back to jail. I remember, like, the way that God got my attention in jail was there was a book card, and on the book card there was an Edgar Casey book. I don't know why this did it for me, but I had an interest in Edgar Casey, and a real lazy interest, like all my interests. And so I read the book, and it's talking about God and stuff, and so that's where God met me first. And really. And then it starts happening here and there. And then I end up going to these meetings in jail. I end up getting into this program called alcohol treatment court, and where I had to go to meetings and I had to get a sponsor. And I knew I never wanted to drink again though, because like this is the difference between the night that I got my after, when I said I'm not going to drink again. The difference between then and this time was like, I knew without a doubt, like my name is Chad, that I could never drink again under any circumstances whatever, no matter what. I didn't know that included going to AA. I didn't know that it would include having a spiritual life. I didn't know that it would be the greatest thing in my life that would change my life. But that's exactly what it was. And so I get out of jail. I join AA. I'm on probation for a few years. I'm in this thing. I do the steps. I'm helping others. I'm sponsoring guys. I ended up, this is cool. I ended up being on an AA committee that does service work by taking meetings into jail. I couldn't go in there because I was on probation, but I could put together like the list of people and stuff. And then, so, I have a background in being able to put together rock shows. So I could put together, like, I could do like a workshop. I know how to do that. It's the same thing, kind of, right? Like, so I ended up getting, I'm on a committee to help put together a workshop. I get my judge that sentenced me. He gets to come and speak at my workshop. That was so cool, man. It's so cool, dude. And so, yeah, that's so I do all this AA stuff. And in AA, we have this concept called a God of your own understanding. And I'm sure you're familiar with what this is, but for anybody who doesn't know, it's just basically like this. If you have alcoholism, like we understand alcoholism, we found that there's nothing that can really help it or solve the problem other than these steps, really. And the steps will get you in touch with a God of your own understanding. I don't care what you call it, as long as it makes sense to you. I don't care if it's the doorknob. I don't care if it's this or that. I don't care. As long as it makes sense to you, it's none of my business. And so that's what helped me, because like I had resentments, and I don't have an idea. I'm afraid of everything, and I don't know about God. All I know about God is I was born with a cleft lip, cleft palate. My life was a piece of shit, and bad stuff happens to me. That's all. That's my understanding of God. And plus I know what I've done, and so what God could love me. And so I work through these steps, and I start to get this relationship with the God of my understanding. Now, the only way I know how to describe a God of my understanding that I was having was, there's a thing in AA that says God could and would if he were sought, right? And so my God was a God where I seek him. That's it. I don't know any more about it. So I'm going to seek him. And I'm going to seek him when I find a penny on the ground. I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to say thank you. If I find a piece of garbage on the ground, I'm going to pick it up and say thank you. If I find somebody to help out in sponsorship, I'm going to say thank you. So like, it's like the seeker eyes for me was God's whatever. God is everything or he's nothing, basically. And a lot of this came from a friend of mine, because I would get this really bad resentment. Now I'm a couple years sober at this point, and actually my sponsor at the time, he turned Christian, and he had an amazing experience that, like, I was like, wow. So I wanted him to be my sponsor, and I was cool with him talking about Christianity and stuff. I'm cool with that. He's fine. But then I started kind of getting bothered by this, because I would get really bothered by the word savior, or when somebody would say, you can't go to heaven unless this or that. Like it would just really, like I would really bristle with antagonism. It would really make me very upset. And I was having one of these moments with this, and my sponsor says, Chad, why don't you just, there's this book, it's called Conversations with God. Go read this. And I'm like, hell no, man. It says God in there. I'm thinking it's a Christian book. And finally, I get to this point where I kind of have no other choice. So I said, fine, I'll read the damn book. He leaves, and I open the book at random, and I start reading. And I don't know if you've ever read this book before.
It's Mitch Albom's book, right?
No, it's Neil Donald Walsh.
Oh, I don't know.
It was a really great book. By the time I got done reading this section of the book, I'm weeping. And I spend the next day reading this book in its entirety. I don't read books, okay? And it changed me. Like it didn't save me, but man, I think it really it allowed for a fertile soil for whatever seed was coming next. And like this is the thing about God that I've understood thus far is God meets me where I'm at every time. And all these fears I have about my inadequacies in relationship to God are all bullshit. And they are always the things that are separating me from God. And so this whole relationship that I've had with God has always been really huge when I just get out of the way and I'm able to see him. And I see it, man. One time I was watching, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, it's called Super. It's got the dude, Dwight, that dude who plays Dwight in The Office.
Huh.
Anyways, in this movie Super, he plays like this vigilante superhero, and he does a really bad job of it. And his wife in the movie is in AA. And in this movie, she ends up like relapsing and going to somewhere, and he's like distraught, and he has this vision of God. And in the movie, like he has a real vision, this vision of God where God touches his brain. And I remember watching this movie and weeping. It's a dark comedy. Why am I weeping watching this dark comedy? And like, this is where God meets me. He meets me in the weirdest places because he knows me, you know? Yeah. God would never meet me on somebody else's terms. It's not how this works. Wouldn't it be easy that way? It doesn't work like that.
No,
so
no.
So I still have difficulty today with people trying to tell people how they need to believe. It bothers me to no end because it's not my experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just let them be where they are. If they ask for help them.
Yeah.
You know, like, so anyways, we'll move on. So I'm doing this AA thing, and I'm sponsoring guys. I'm sober now for this year was my 7th year of sobriety. I've been in AA for 9 years, and so I had a little bit of slip in there, and so last March, maybe it was right before March, must have been April. I was watching one of your videos. Now I'd watched some of your videos before. A friend of mine introduced me to Peterson through Rogan, and I really loved it because it's talking about concepts that he's talking in a way that I can jive with, and I really like him. And again, like everybody else who's ever been on this channel who's doing this right now, they all say the same thing. I had nobody to talk to about it. You know, they say the Peterson thing, but the one thing I always hear is, I had nobody to talk to about it.
Yeah, you hear it right away.
Yeah, greatest thing. You know, this is why I love this. So I really love Peterson a lot, and like I've listened to 500-600 hours of him, and I just like when I get a hold of something, I love it, and I just really love it. That's why I loved AA. It works. I could work with it, man, and I found not only utility, but I found usefulness there, and it made me be useful in the world, which is all I really ever wanted.
If you
And
work it, it'll work or something.
it works, yeah. And so it was like April, and Peterson's wife Tammy did an interview. It's the first thing I ever saw of her. I remember I typed in one of your videos, have you seen the Peterson thing or Tammy's thing? And you said something like, no, I haven't. You gotta colonize me or something. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? Like, what does colonize mean? Right? Because like this is like my first interaction with you. Actually,
That's so bad.
And
on my part.
No, it's good because somebody else in the comments is like, oh, he just means like, yeah, show him about whatever. So
yeah, give me the link at least. So people will be like, you got to watch this video. It's like, what video?
Right.
I can't read your mind. I don't even know who you are.
So I had seen you back in the first run, and then I just stopped watching for whatever reason. Probably some petty bullshit that's in my head. But maybe I disagreed with you on something or whatever, because I've been known to do that in the past.
Really?
So anyhow, I'm watching this stuff, and then Peterson makes his way back and starts doing this stuff, and I'm starting to get bothered by my own understanding of God. Like it's worked up to this point, but it's not working. Like it's the only way I can describe it is this. For some reason, I went to my sponsor once, my new sponsor. I said, why, how is it that, I said, you're a smart guy. How is it that you're able to wrap your head around this whole Christ thing? Like, I don't understand this. How can you actually believe this and understand this? He says, oh, I don't know. It just makes sense to me. And that wasn't helpful. Thanks. And so, but this question had been kind of bothering me, right? And I learned a while ago that I can't just be walking around practicing my prejudices. If I want to know about something, I have to actually work with something. Because I'm the kind of guy where I'll take a prejudice like sardines. Somebody will say, sardines are disgusting. And I'll say, you're right, only I've never had them. Meanwhile, I'm telling everybody how sardines are disgusting, right? But I'll live my life this way. It's fine with sardines, but if I'm living my life like that, it's not good. So anyhow, I end up, I watched the Peugeot and Peterson video, and I noticed I'm right where he is with this wrestling question of why, like, there's something. It's as if I could see it's like I'm on one side of the glass and I could see everybody on the other side of the glass over there. They're all those saved people. They're so happy, and it makes sense to them. And I can see what they're doing. In fact, I'm doing a lot of the stuff, if not more of the stuff that they're doing. And I don't understand. So I went out, and a friend of mine mentioned to me some time ago that if you ever read the Bible, just read the red words, is what he said to me. And so for some reason that came to mind, and I typed up in my YouTube, only what Jesus said, basically. And there was an audio book that popped up on there called The Complete Sayings of Jesus Christ in Chronological Order. And so I start, and it's all scripture. And I'm at work one day and I'm listening to it and I'm thinking, this is pretty good. All right, well, this is kind of cool. Okay. Now, I've been going to church off and on. I would just drop into a church once in a while just to see what they're saying. And I liked what I would hear, but as soon as I heard Savior stuff, I'm out, man. I don't want to hear it. I still don't know why this is, but anyways. So I'm listening to this book, and it comes to this story, and I heard the story, and I was like, whoa. And I pressed rewind, and I listened to the story again. And in the story, Jesus and his disciples go over the sea. They get to the one side of the sea, and there Christ gets off the boat. He's immediately met by a man who is basically naked, who's scarred up, who's a madman, who's living in the tombs, he says to him in this version that I have, it says, Jesus, what am I supposed to do with you? And and he has him healed, and Jesus heals him, right? This is the story of Legion and the demoniac, as I'm sure you know. Well, after he heals him and all this stuff, he's clothed. And I totally related to this demoniac guy, because I'm thinking, oh yeah, this guy's just full of character defects and all sorts of garbage in his head, just like I got. He's just a sick guy like me, right? He's spiritually sick, and he can't connect to the world, and he can't even, he hates himself. I could tell. And so when Christ heals him after this, he heals him, he's in his clothes. And then he goes to Jesus and he says, hey, can I go with you? And Jesus is like, nah, why don't you just stay here and help these people over here and tell them what the Lord did. And as soon as I heard it, man, I was like, I was on the other side of the glass.
Wow.
And I don't know why, but the answer for me was, I don't have to know. I don't have to know how this or why that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And and I think a lot of it had to do with the demoniac or Legion. He reminded me of me, and he reminded me of somebody like me in AA, where I don't have to go to the church. I can just tell them what God did and help those people. And it changed my life. And so that's the story of how I was captured by Christ. I don't know if I still like being called Christian. I don't know. I'll say it just so we know what we're talking about, but yeah. I feel like it's such a small term. It's so limiting. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's like, that's just weird. It's just not, it's not, it seems so packaged for me.
Yeah.
Because my experience with it is way bigger than the term Christian.
Yeah.
And so that's how all that happened. Now, then a couple weeks later, I go to this church. I'm sorry, am I burning up all the time here?
Just keep talking. You're doing great.
Okay. A couple weeks later, I end up going to this church, and I go there, and they're, it's all right. And they're reading on the Bible. I did the tile at this church like a few years back. And so the pastor remembered who I was. And this is the first time actually attending it as a church. They're going through the book of Acts the first time I'm there. And they're at the story of Lydia. And he says something like, nowhere in the Bible is there a scheduled baptism. And I know he's doing this call on me. And I'm like, oh shit, I know what's going on here. And he's like, somebody wanted to get baptized. So I'm like, all right. So I get up, I stand up, and they're all like, oh, cool. And they dunk me in, like, my whole body in this big ass trough. And I go to my buddy's house. The first thing he did, though, with that kind of bothered me was, as soon as I come up out of the water and all this stuff, and he comes to me at the side and he says, now that you're saved, the devil's coming after you. You watch out. And I called him the next day. I said, I don't really appreciate that. I said, I didn't come to get saved to be running from the devil. That's not what this is about for me. And it's kind of infantile when you do that. And so that's the way that I think we do this sometimes as Christians. We make God so small, and we make the devil, and I even hate that word. That's so silly. It's like, he doesn't even deserve a name. You make him so big. And if we say things like God wins, but we treat it as if he's not going to. And it just drives me up the walls. And we got all these debates about theology and, whatever. I'm like, I don't even give a shit. None of it matters to me. Do not care. And So I'm at that church. I ended up leaving because it was a little weird. It's just a little weird. There's things about it I didn't really like. I don't really need to get into it. It basically boiled down to me having to ask this pastor if he ever actually read the literature of AA, and him saying no. And I said, well, if you're going to judge it, maybe you should read it first. And I said, it's fine. You can do what you want here. I just don't want to be a part of it. And so
Pastor was against AA.
yeah, he didn't like the idea. He didn't like the idea of God as you understand him. He didn't like the higher power concept. He was talking on the unnamed God, and he said something like, you can't get into heaven on a higher power. And I said, I'm out. And I don't want anything to do with it, because to me, it wasn't just that. It was a series of things where, when I was at the Bible study and this lady there was like, what'd she say? She said something like, oh, and Joel Osteen should be dancing in the fires of hell. And then people are laughing, and I'm looking around like, who the hell are you to say that? Like, really? Like, I might not like Joel Osteen or give a shit about him, but there's people I know who seems to be liking what he's saying, and it seems to help them. So who are you?
Yeah.
And so, as you can tell, I have this defensive streak in me. So anyways, I end up the next go around on trying to find a church, I actually started inviting my wife. I said, we should do this together, because I really like you to be a part of this if you're interested. And so we tried out a couple of churches, and we ended up going to this little church. We're like, I don't know, it's a little weird. So we walk in there and we sit down, and it's a Lutheran church, and it's the American Lutheran. It's not the ELCA, it's a different one. American Lutheran Church of America, something like that. Anyhow, it's to stand up, sit down. They only have an organist. Everybody sings. It's like 40 people in there, and 30 of them are 80 years old, and 4 of them are 30, and the other ones are 50. And she was raised Catholic, so she likes the liturgy and that stuff. I don't like the sermon. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. It's a little weird, but then the guy starts talking, and we've never seen this guy before. Again, it's our first time there, and he starts talking, and he says, sometimes people come to faith later in life, and they have really strong faith. Yeah. He says, I got 2 friends, or he says, I have a friend in AA. Wait, I have 2 friends in AA who can walk up to anybody in a grocery store and talk to them about God. Yeah. And we're too afraid to do it as Christians. And my wife and I look at each other like, whoa, like this is weird, because, and so we pretty much knew right then and there, we like this place. We really like the pastor. We spent time, we sat down with him, we talked with him for 2 hours. I talked to him about some estuary ideas. He's a big fan of church with a capital C, whatever that means. He was, he's only been a pastor for like 10 years. He's like in his 50s. He and his wife owned a bar at one point. He rides bike. He's, so he's tattooed, and he's in a robe and shit. Like, cool, man. I like him. And, and I don't hear like some weird, subliminal messaging happening politically or anything like this. It's just like, cool. I can be here, and I can feel okay taking the communion, and I can be there with my wife and stuff. And so, yeah, that's where we're at now. That's what I'm doing now. And then as far as this stuff goes, like this mask and stuff, the reason why I wear the mask is because I say that I'm an Alcoholics Anonymous. Right. And I want to be able to talk about that openly, but I also have respect for AA, and there's a tradition there. So if anybody's wondering, it's funny, but it's also utilizing a principle, or trying to live up to a principle.
I like it. I like it. I think it works, and it works for you.
It's fun. It's fun.
So tell me about the carving.
Oh, these. Okay, so So this one's a little flower here. I'll tell you about it in a second. But so during the pandemic, early in the pandemic, we ordered some Chinese food, and we're watching TV. It's probably Gotham or something, because we like Netflix. We like to sit and play cards, and we'll play Skippo and watch TV and make fun of the characters, like on Star Trek, because it's hilarious, and Riker's weird and all this stuff. So I'm sitting there, and I have a utility knife, and I'm carving the chopstick just for fun, and I carved this cool little thing out of it. And I got this idea. She's like, "Oh, that's cute. Oh, I like it." She probably still has it. And I was thinking it'd be kind of cool if I can, like, if I carved a dagger, like a cool dagger. That'd be cool. And so what does she do? Like, when I'm asleep, she goes and orders this box set that has all like these cubicle. This was a cube, basically, a rectangle, and it had like 6 of them in there. And she's like, she ordered that, and then she ordered me like a knife carving kit, and I just started going at it, man. And this is the first one I did. The first thing I did was this right here. It's a part of the face, and then I was like, oh, maybe if I do this, and so I carved this.
Ah, cool.
And then I carved that.
Wow. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. That's really good. That's really cool.
But it's like things. But it's like if you were telling me, "Hey, can you carve me a dog or something?" I'd be like, I don't know. Like, and I haven't really done it. I did it for like a month and a half straight. Like every day, I'm just carving like crazy, man. And I carved like 6 different things, and it was a lot of fun, and it was cool to do it. And then all of a sudden one day, like, the desire was gone. Basically, I was like, kind of done carving for a while at least. And that's how, and and also since a few years after sobriety, I did music, and then the desire to create music just went away, which is insane, because like that was everything. That was everything to me. Like my music and being in a band, and like I know so much about different bands, and like it's everything. It's just gone. I like to listen. I'll doodle around a little bit, but I really don't care. And I'm very cool with that, because I think it's kind of an idol. I don't really do hobbies well. Like I go like crazy. Like when I started doing the news thing, I was doing news all the time, every day, edit. And I really get into a flow with it. But that's fine if I'm single, and that's fine if if I'm like, so. But no, I have my wife, and I need to attend to and be intentional with the time I spend with her, and because she's amazing. I mean, she married me. This is insane. Which is insane, dude. And so I have to be careful about those different things. But yeah, so that's what happened. That's how I did the carving, and I just like it because it's kind of a question asker. It's kind of weird. It's face. Who knows?
Well, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
You're sort of like my sister in that. My sister has a YouTube channel too. But she's such a streak person. She's super creative. She's an artist. She's a musician. She decorates. She does all these things, but she goes on these tears sometimes. And for a while, because I'd been blogging, I'm much more steady than she is. She went on a tear of blogging, and she just wrote. She must have written, I don't know how many books just in that span, just on the internet. And then she was done, and it stopped. And when she started doing YouTube, I kind of said, you're gonna have to watch this, because if you want to do something, you really have to sustain it. But that's just not in her. She goes on a tear, and then she's done with it. And she goes on a tear, and then she's done with it. And that's just how she is. So
it's weird. I don't know why it is that way. It just seems like it's all right, I guess.
Yeah, it is. So I've pestered you enough. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to talk about, because I saw your, I caught Grimm's channel, because I talked to Grim Grizz on the Twitter sometimes, and then I saw his channel, and I loved some of the stuff that you did. And so over the last couple of weeks, I was diving into your channel and his channel. And I thought, you asked for a conversation a long time ago and I didn't do it. It's kind of hard for me to both keep a rando slot open and to get at everyone who asks. And I thought, I really got to get back to Chad and give him a slot. And I was just so gratified. I think you're really creative, and I really liked what you put into your channel. And I know very well, like with most people who dabble with YouTube, they'll do it for a while, then they'll be done with it. And that's just okay. It's your temperament that it's just how you are, and it's absolutely fine. But what's encouraging to hear is that you've also taken on a sustained discipline of, okay, this is my wife, this can't be like carving, this has to be a regular thing, this is a big deal. But I really appreciate hearing your story. Everyone's story is different, but there are obviously patterns that emerge. And so it's just, because I haven't been on the Discord much lately. I really have to get back into it. And I think I will at some point. It just has to do with sort of the flow of what's going on in me. Because I've got some of my sister in me that I can be very, I get interested in things that I just really grab on. But I've got some of my mother. So I've got some of my mother in me. It's very steady and plodding and regular and rhythmic. So I'm kind of in between there. But I wanted to do a conversation with you. I wanted to hear your story, and I wanted to give you a chance. And I wanted to encourage you, whether or not you do any more Bridges of Meaning Hub videos. I just wanted to in some way say thank you for the videos that you did. And that thing that you did with Chris Pacau was genius. I've watched that thing 20 times. And so
he's really brilliant, man. So I started doing this. The first person that asked me to do what we're doing now was Jacob. So, but we couldn't get the time together. But the first one I did was with Chris. And so we did one, and that was just so fun. It was the first long form conversation I ever had. And the flow was there. That guy is just so good at keeping the flow going. He's just
I'll have to talk to him then, because I didn't even know who he was. And then Grizz is obviously, talking to him, and, it's a really small channel, but I don't know. I want to give you guys who are doing this some encouragement, and that's no pressure to keep doing your channel or anything. But
no, it is encouragement. That's like, because sometimes that's what a guy like me needs. And I'm not one to sit back and say, "Oh, I don't have an ego." No, I'm full of ego, and I'm okay with knowing that I have that. I have tools to keep it right sized. Okay, so that's good. And if we didn't have an ego, I couldn't talk to you at all. So I wouldn't even be able to order a sandwich or whatever. So it is what it is, and it's okay. So the encouragement's wonderful. And like the stuff that the guys on Rando, like on the Rando's channel, they do is great, man.
Yeah.
Like I've been listening to audiobooks for like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 years now. Like I do tile for work. So, and I work a lot by myself. So I can listen to I listen to The Stand in like a week. It's a 40-hour audiobook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and so when I could hear these regular people, some of the conversations aren't for me. Again, I don't care about theology. And if you want to get into that, that's cool. And that's up to you. Awesome. Wonderful. But I like more of a personal conversation, because I just don't care about the theology. My theology, and the way that I understand it is God is, and He meets me where I'm at. And I'm willing to seek Him, He's always there anyways. It doesn't matter. Like, I have a really strange theology. A lot of stuff people would not agree with. It doesn't matter. If in the end it's all wrong, then I'm the one who has to deal with that. But I'm not really worried about that. You know what I mean? Like when Christ told Legion to go out there, He didn't say go out there and tell people what they're doing wrong. He said go out there and tell them what the Lord did for you.
Yeah.
And so I live on simple things like this. But we appreciate what I really appreciate is I reached out to you back in March when I was struggling with this God thing. You sent me a Discord, and you got me plugged in with some people there. It was cool to be a part of the community. This is really cool. I love stuff like this. I was a part of a music scene that I helped to build. I love doing that stuff. It's fun, and it's really cool. So, and I never even would have thought that there'd be a little community of people who have all these different channels and stuff. And it's like, that's wonderful. And the randos, those guys, they'll basically let anybody on there. All you got to do, this is what I would do. I'm not going to tell you how to exactly do it, but if you're on Discord, get a hold of Jeff P. He'll tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
But if they let Luke on there, they'll let anybody. So it's excuse me. And I love Luke, man. I've been talking off and on with him. We got this thing on Voxer.
Yeah, Luke's always on Voxer. He tried to get me on that thing. It's like, I already got too many things, Luke. I can't do another one.
But it's a lot. It's a lot of fun, and I do want to tell you that I genuinely mean this. I very much appreciate you, and I appreciate like the prolific way of you putting all this stuff together. The time that you put into it is unreal. That's been really cool. And then the care, I can tell that there's a genuine care that you have for people, and that you actually live that. I've seen the place that you work at, and so like I know I don't
care for the building. That's a mess.
It's kind of like in a prison in a way, I think, because you got the fence all the way around it. But I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the work that you put in, and keep doing what you're doing, because you just never know how you're going to be an instrument, you know what I mean, for God and His grace. And it's really beautiful, man. And I just appreciate you a lot. Well,
I worry about how much I put out sometimes, because I don't want to. It's a silly worry. It's a silly anxiety, because like I don't want to bother people, but it's like, well, they're not going to watch it. YouTube is they'll watch it if they want to, and if you piss them off, they'll turn it off. Why am I worried about harming someone? But I don't know that any of us really know why we do what we do. We're just us, and we do stuff, and we're sort of all over the place. So,
well, it's helping. I think it is helping. And if somebody, like, I left and I came back because, like, again, who knows why, but
yeah,
the stuff that you've shared has been very helpful.
Good.
The answer, the one day on the Q&A, you were talking about what your Calvinism affords you. Like, I know people have their comments about Calvinism, whatever. I have no idea what it is. I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter to me. But what I heard in that conversation, what you were saying, was how I would like to live, because that's what this is about. Like, it's about trusting Him and being useful. And like, I don't need to get hung up on who's not doing or what, and this and that doesn't matter to me. And even though it's easy for me to say that, I have to keep it in mind when I do see people acting as if they're acting the way that I don't want them to act. And I have to remember, well, I can't be the police of the world. And I can't be the church police. I can't be the AA police. I can't be the Discord police. My sponsor reminds me, Chad, if you want to feel closer to God, just go help His kids. Don't worry about all this other stuff, Yeah. And so
it's true.
I'm grateful.
It's true. Anything else you wanted to hit on while we're still here,
or? Hopefully, here's one hope I do have for you. I hope that you do write a book someday. I really want to read that.
I do want to, because it would help me systematize and organize. And I think now that I've been talking into this contraption for 3 years now, there are some things that I'm coming to that I'm thinking, yeah, it would be good to write it down. It's just that, I mean, YouTube seems very fitting for my ADHD, but at the same time, the discipline of sitting down and working on structure and working on flow and organization, that's important. But that takes a lot of time And people are always like, I don't know how you manage to put out so much. No, you don't understand. I could put out so much because I don't have the time. Those two things go together. If to do something really organized, I mean, I spend time on my sermons and my Sunday school class before you get to the sermon and the Sunday school class, because you have to put that stuff into it. And most of what I do on my own channel is just, it's all the raw material, and I just throw it out there. And it's like, if you find anything useful, you go ahead and take it. If you say, you know, oh, all these words and it's unorganized, and it's like, yeah, that's it. If you don't want it, move along. But that's what you got. But apparently, and especially for someone who's doing like you, people are driving, they're running, they're doing dishes. And so when you're doing that, because I listen to a lot of audio stuff too, you know, your mind is all over the place. You're sort of some of your consciousness Congress is listening, and then something will hit. It's like, oh, and then you'll take a little something out and add it with something else and put together your own stuff. So that's what I see happening.
Well, plus it makes the work day, like my tile job today, I was mixing that mud by hand. You know, like I had to mix this concrete with a shovel. Oh my God, for like 3 hours, but it didn't feel like 3 hours at all. Like I'm 38, I shouldn't be mixing it by hand. It shouldn't be happening. But it's helped out a lot. But anyways, yeah, man. So yeah, thank you very much, Paul, and
well, you want to talk about are you going to make any more videos on your channel? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to make some. Oh, I wanted to thank you for tweeting that thing, by the way. That was crazy. My wife was poking fun at me so much. She's like, ooh, Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson. Because, you know, I'm always Jordan Peterson, Paul Vanderclay, blah, 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 blah. And so, ooh, she was all teasing me about it because she's lovely.
She'll keep you humble.
Yeah, she got me a couple Peterson signed books for our 1 year anniversary, which was really cool. I was like, dude, and we're buying a house. But yeah, I will end up definitely doing more. I'm putting together a couple clips right now. I wanted to be able to respond to the tweet thing right away, but I'm not going to. I don't think I'll end up putting it in there maybe, but I got a very busy week. So
yeah. Well, great, Chad. Well, thanks for making time to talk to me. And I want to encourage you and appreciate what you do and who you are in the Discord. And it's great hearing your story and just having a little higher resolution picture of you. So
thanks, Paul.
All right. Take care, Chad.
Have a good one, man.
All right. Bye-bye.